If you want to build a badass rock crawler, a machine you can take absolutely anywhere. The question that people ask themselves is, should I go with a Jeep or should I go with a tube chassis? Buggy, sorry. Yeah, so with that being the question, today's show, we're going to answer it. So yeah, let's just jump into it. Let's talk about tube chassis versus Jeeps, tube buggies. I'm losing my mind here. What's going on, everyone? Thanks again for joining us for another show of Light Bars and Lockers. As always, I've got my man Tim Rogers from TMR Customs. Ryan is off on some secret mission for Santa Claus, I think. I think he's delivering. Well, actually, I'm not sure what he's up to, but he's with it being Christmas.
He's building combat goods.
He's building combat goods and shipping them out like crazy. That's right. For Santa.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I say we just jump into it. Like I say, we have a little bit of a shorter show today. We're going to get right to the point, make it succinct, and get some questions answered. So, as mentioned in the show notes, today is the showdown. So, Tube Buggy versus the Jeep. And let's start out with like differences. I mean, clearly, I think most people know what a Jeep is. But let's talk about the Tube Buggy. What sort of differentiates that, and when you say Tube Buggy, what are we talking about?
Sure. So we're talking strictly purpose built for off road. So whether that's rock crawling, rock racing, rock bouncing, pick your niche, but it's going to be constructed of tubing, built from scratch, ground up. You didn't really start with a Jeep per se. You started literally from scratch, a pile of tubing. There's kits. We'll get into that. There's lots of different ways to build these things, but it's purpose built for off road. It's not going to go on the street like your Jeep. It's going to be strictly an off road toy.
Okay, got it. Awesome. And so then when we're talking about comparing it to a Jeep, I assume we're probably not talking like a brand new JL that we would compare it to.
I think we'd compare it to any Jeep where you're considering or have swapped 1-tons in, because those are a major expense. Or if you're considering a motor swap, if you were looking at doing like a LS or a Hemi swap in your Jeep and upgrading the axles to 1-ton, like I mentioned, to suit, you're in the realm of, I mean, we'll get into that, but you could easily have exceeded the cost of having a dedicated tube buggy for off-road use. So that's what I would compare it to. Anything that's going to be on 1-tons, custom suspension, or motor swapped, we're in the same realm of cost.
So then why don't we just start with like pros and cons? So what are some of the pros? Let's break it into the two categories. If we're talking pros, let's go pros of the buggy versus pros of the Jeep.
Sure. Pros of the buggy are it's literally built for off-road. So throw down, run the hardest trails around, run them as hard as you want. Ultimately, you don't need this toy to drive you to your job on Monday. So your income might be affected because you're gonna have to replace some parts if you go wild, but it's purpose built for off-road. So I would say theoretically, when you're on the trail, you can have more fun in this thing and less concern or less regard for your equipment because it doesn't need to commute you come Monday.
Okay, cool. All right. And pros of the Jeep. I guess would that be the opposite? You can more or less.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can drive it. So, I mean, you can drive it on the street. Obviously, you could drive it to the trail. You can drive it around town. You can drive it to work. I mean, even if it's just your toy and take it out on nice days to get ice cream, that's cool. Jeep's going to be more versatile. You can certainly get more usage in a calendar year at Jeep, no question.
Okay, got it. Awesome. All right, so then how about some cons? I suppose they'd be flipped, but
yeah, no, I mean, cons to a tube buggy would be, say, expertise to build one when starting out. I mean, it's not an entry level project by any means. It's more advanced. Whereas a Jeep, there's going to be forums, Facebook groups. There's lots of local clubs. There's lots of sources of information for how to go about building your Jeep. Whereas the tube buggy world, you got to dig a little deeper for that research to figure out how you want to go about doing it.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so yeah, I think a big one, at least that sticks out to me, is the ability to actually build it, right? So you know, you have to take that cost into consideration. Either you can do it, or you have to maybe get someone to do it.
Yeah.
Mind you, though, I suppose, you know, it'd probably be a great toy to play with, right? Like in terms of building it, like figuring out how to like make this thing work and what you need, parts and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's an engineering feat to have something finished and tell your friend, hey, I built this. I designed and built a vehicle from scratch. I mean, that's something to take a serious amount of pride in. That's not something to do.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, there you go. And we're not sure who, but somebody says any Jeep can be a buggy as long as you don't care about the body. Is that about correct?
That's cool. Yeah, we went into more pros and cons.
Okay, cool.
I mean, yeah, you can have complete disregard for your Jeep for sure.
Let's talk about maybe some of the like components of why someone might choose one over the other. And let's talk about safety, because I know that, you know, lots of people are concerned with that, especially if you're doing some serious rock crawling or off-roading. Is the Tube Buggy, is it safe?
Yeah, designed properly. I mean, it's going to be far safer because you have far more tubing structure around you, provided it's of proper design. So yeah, I mean, to tackle a hard obstacle and potentially roll over, odds are in your Tube Buggy, you're going to fare it for like flat out. It's gonna withstand a rollover or in a violent crash or event better than a Jeep would for sure.
Okay. All right, cool. So is that maybe if we are compiling a giant list of pros versus cons, we put that in the pro of the buggy side, right? It's a little bit safer, right?
For sure. For sure.
Okay,
Safer
cool.
for hardcore use. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Okay, cool. And that's, I mean, honestly, like that's probably what we're building it for, right? It's for hardcore off-roading.
Mm-hmm.
We're not taking it to the grocery store or the mall. I mean, hey, you never know, right? Okay. So then if I'm considering, you know, one versus the other and I'm trying to make my decision, like at what time does it make sense for me to choose the buggy perhaps over the Jeep? And I will say, complete transparency, I think we're a little biased in that the buggy would be the choice for a serious off-roading vehicle over the Jeep every time. Can we get to that? Is that probably what you would say?
Yeah, flat out. I mean, having both, if I know I'm going out for like an absolute weekend of thrash, I'm going in a tube car. Like no question, a tube chassis buggy is going to be the choice, no question.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna go into it saying we're biased in that regard, but so there's gonna be a lot more probably pros than cons, and the Jeep's gonna lose. But yeah, so then in that case, you know, I'm ready to put some money into a serious off-road vehicle. At what point does the tube car make more sense than the Jeep?
If you want to, like, if you go to off-road trails and you're looking at obstacles and you're potentially cautious that, hey, if I blast up this obstacle, very high chance of rollover. Body damage I don't care about because there's lots of people that turn a Jeep or truck into a raisin. I mean, who cares? That doesn't take anything. But we're talking about rollover and potentially hurt yourself or crush the structure. If you're looking at those types of obstacles and that's something you want to hit or engage, yeah, that's where a Tube Buggy would shine. That's the type of thing you would make that choice. I mean, another one would be the crowd you hang around. If all your friends are and built buggies, 40-inch tires and up in LS, and they hit those crazy obstacles all the time, you probably want similar running gear just so you can be comfortable around them and know your machine's capable of the same outings and abuse.
Okay, right on. Cool. All right, Colin says no way, blue plate.
Yeah, awesome. Good argument. That's what we addressed earlier. I mean, Jeeps, you could be driven on the street, driven to the trail, so definitely more versatile. But yeah, I've wheeled with Colin lots. He used to be pretty a man in his day and has lots of fun in his Jeep, but I think he's toned it down lately. I think there's a little more gray in that beard.
Yeah, right on. Okay, cool. I think maybe another question that somebody might ask is, what about like organized off-road events? Can you take a Tube Buggy to one of those guys, or are they allowed, or are they? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. It varies. It depends on events. Some events are Jeep only, some events are truck only, some are biased in that regard. Some also have tire size limitations. So I would just look at the events you currently attend or you might want to go to in the future. Even look at bucket list stuff. If you want to get down to Easter Jeep Safari, that's why it's open season for buggies. You're not going to be limited there. But yeah, just look at the stuff you go to, and are other people out on buggies, and is that something that's acceptable? Because if you go to a local jamboree and they only allow Jeeps and only up to a 37-inch tire, then yeah, maybe a tube chassis is not for you, because that's going to limit you attending those events.
Okay. All right, cool. Call on again. This is Campanelle allows for any driver from mild to wild.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Okay, so then in our little bubble here, we're saying we're going with the tube buggy. So we've made our decision based on, you know, the questions we've asked. We've decided to go that way. Let's talk about building it. So first of all, like, is there a kit, or do you buy, like, I know you can buy them used, obviously, but yeah, what does that look like? Especially from the, like, what am I doing first? I've decided on buying one. I'm going to go out and start doing some research.
Step one would be set your budget for sure. If you've got a high end budget, then yeah, you could probably look at buying either a used completed buggy or buying a turnkey buggy. There's lots of shops you can go to and say, hey, I want to buy one of your chassis finished. I want to pick it up and drive it away. There's shops that'll do that for you. If you have a smaller budget, then you might look at doing it yourself. So that's literally going to be cutting the tubing, sourcing the powertrain, cutting that tubing, welding it, completely constructing it yourself. And if you're in the mid-range, you might look at buying someone's chassis and doing the assembly work yourself, because labor, I mean, like any project, labor is the greatest expense. So the more you can do, the more potential savings there is on this project.
Okay, right on. This person on Facebook says the whole family fits in a Jeep. So does that mean that is not the case with a buggy?
It depends. This is an awesome thing. I get some people that, so we make tube chassis kits. We only do a 2-seater because we intend for the thing to be used for hardcore usage. I have some people and they're like, oh, I want a 4-seater. I want to put my family in it. Our spin or our outlook has always been, if you're hitting obstacles and trails where you want the safety and durability of a tube buggy, you probably don't want the kids riding in the back. So for family, I'm 4-door JK, JL Gladiator all the way. If someone says they want to build a family machine, get that. You're going to have heat, you're going to have air conditioning. Bugs are bad, roll up the windows. You've got far more creature comfort. So for a family, a Jeep all day, no question.
Okay. All right, cool. So that's good to know. Yeah, and that's actually a good point, I think. Right? So chances are, if you're, you know, doing some serious rock crawling, probably don't want to have your like 4-year-old hanging out in the back seat with you. I mean,
yeah,
you might, but
you might. And I mean, some people are comfortable with that. I wouldn't be if I took my Jeep out for the day and take the kids out. If I came upon an obstacle where I thought there was a high chance of rollover, I would have the kids get out. There's not many kids and enjoy that. And then maybe now they're afraid of that hobby you wanted to introduce them to. So that's bad news all around.
Yeah. Good point. Right. Okay, cool. So in terms of the build itself, I mean, what are we talking budget wise? Like, is there like an entry level? Is it rather large, the barrier to entry, or what's that look like?
I'd say on the lower side, you could build yourself a buggy for 15 to 20K comfortably. A lot of this comes down to just like building a Jeep, motor choice, axle choice, shocks. You can spend $250,000, like no question. If that's your budget and you want the best of the best, you can do that. Like no questions asked. But yeah, if you want to start out entry level, I'd say 15 to 20K. And I'm talking everything: chassis, powertrain, wire it, plummet. Like there's a lot of unassociated costs that people don't realize up front. When you get close to finishing any project, it just seems like you get $500, $500. Just keep peeling it off for all that little stuff to finish a project. So yeah, 15 to 20K is what I would say would be a safe entry level budget to get yourself into that game.
Okay, cool. Well, with that said, why don't we take a quick break and we'll have a word from our sponsors. And in this case, it's TMR Customs.
Hey.
We'll talk about the product of the week. So this week's product of the week, should you want to get into something like this, what do we got? We have I'm going to show a picture here if I can figure out how to do it. But Tim, tell us about this guy here.
Oh, okay, awesome. So that you're seeing under the panels there is our DIY tube chassis kit. So if you want to tackle this project and you can cut, grind, weld, and have some fabrication skills, but essentially don't want to start at the bottom and figure out shock placement, motor placement, transmission, etc. We've got that solution for you. So literally you're buying a buggy in a box. We ship you all those tubes flat packed on a pallet. It arrives to you with assembly instructions. We give you instructions for building your own jigs to make the thing go easy together. So it's kind of mid-tier. It's a step up from I'm going to buy tube, cut it, and start from scratch myself. But obviously there's a lot of cost savings compared to going to a shop and being like, hey, build me a roller, build me a turnkey machine. There's a lot of labor savings involved by you doing it yourself. So yeah, that's a great way to get into it and really speed your build up. For a lot of people, we have lots of customers that start a buggy from scratch, and you can hit a wall and not know, you're not thinking the whole project through if you haven't done it before, so you don't necessarily know the right order of operations to tackle the design and manufacture and assembly of that. So we really speed that process up for you and try and help you bring that project to life sooner so you can get out and enjoy using it.
Okay, cool. Got it. That makes sense. So I guess it kind of fits in obviously with what we're talking about in terms of like the actual build and how to. And so with something like that, is it like you just sort of put it together? I think you described it once like Lego.
Yeah, no, awesome. I always say like, yeah, it's Lego for adults. So every tube you see there has its part number laser etched to it. Every notch is laser cut. There's only 4 tube bends in the whole chassis. So it goes together very easy. The tubes almost like click together, the fitment on those laser cut notches is perfect. It's done by CNC machine. It's not done in a shop by hand. So yeah, the fitment on it's awesome. And anyone that puts one together, it's like, damn, that went together faster and easier than I thought it would. So it's a fun project.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, is that the one is that like basically what you guys run in the TMR race series?
Yeah. So the one you show the picture of is the first car we built. We built that one in 15. That one's been everywhere. It's been Hammers. It's been a Moab a couple times. It's been all over the place as well as raced locally. And then now we're on to our second version of that one. So same chassis, identical chassis. We just use different body panels and stuff on our current one to show you it doesn't have to look like a Jeep. Like that one had a Jeep hood, grill, and cowl. So from the front, it looked like a Jeep. It was actually quite funny. We had that thing in our booth at SEMA. And you get guys come with a booth and like, hey, my friend's got a Jeep just like this. It's like, yeah, okay. They think it's a JK because literally they see a modified J clip on the front of it. So it's okay. You're definitely not into off-road. But yeah, it was funny. They might be, well, my friend's got a Jeep just like that. He's got Dana's under it. Yeah, for sure. He's got one just like it.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. Somebody, I assume, I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe that's Ryan. Who knows? Yeah, likes Lego. So and that's same with me. I mean, I'm all over the idea of something like that because I mean, a lot of the stuff I've never tackled something like this. Like, let's be honest, right? Like I obviously love going off-roading. I love the whole community, and you know what I mean. But that's just not. That's this is like a later sort of passion that I have, and I'm sure lots of people are like that, right? So something like this is great because I'm not afraid to tackle something like that. But at the same time, I having some paint by numbers there to what I'm saying? It'd be helpful. So what about buying it just buying it off the shelf? Like, can you just buy one ready to go? Do people actually make them?
Oh yeah, super popular. If you've got the dough for that, that's an awesome option. Make sure you're buying it from a reputable builder because the thing's super custom. So when it comes to requiring replacement or service parts in the future, you want to know as much information about the DNA of that vehicle as possible, right? It's not like you're no longer walking into Napa and saying, hey, I got like a 2020 Wrangler and I need a wheel bearing. That wheel bearing's probably custom. Maybe it's on a Spider Trax axle, a Curry axle. So that's why you would definitely want to buy, if you're buying new, buy from a reputable builder that can give you those answers and help you support that vehicle going forward.
Okay, right on. And what about the same thing in terms of cost? Like you got them anywhere from, whatever, multiple thousands up to like the crazy amounts, or I guess it would depend, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There would be a huge spread. I would say buying one new from a shop, you're going to be 100, I think, at the at the
Yeah.
minimum, because
Is
there's
that
a
right?
lot of, yeah, there's a lot of assembly labor there. But I mean, you can easily spend 70 on a on a JL, realize the diffs in it aren't suited to the tire size you necessarily want to run, and
Yeah.
be at 100 tomorrow, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's not out of realm. So yeah, I'd say 100 if you want to buy one from a shop, and up from there, just to, like, again, motor, axles, all those components are going to dictate the cost.
Okay, right on. I know people are gonna ask. I know it. So do you guys actually sell pre-built?
We
No.
don't.
No.
No, I mean, our passion expertise is manufacturing, so that's why we do the kit version and help target, like, we target DIYers. So you can do that if you're interested in one of our and need help putting wedge to some places that can build that for you and try and help you out with that process. But no, we do not build like turnkeys or rollers for people. We just manufacture the parts.
Okay, good. All right. I just assume people are gonna ask, so
Yep,
might as well
for sure.
nip that in the bud. All right. So Adrian here, he says, in his opinion, it's cheaper to buy someone else's project or completed rig. Even if you need to tweak it, you can normally sell what's up to par to fund the changes. That sounds like a reasonable answer to me, or thought
For
on the
sure.
whole thing.
Yeah. If you're, as long as you're educated and know what you're buying. Truth, I've had people like, and Adrian will have seen it too. There's people that are like, hey, I bought this wicked Jeep, look at this deal I got, or I bought this wicked buggy, look at this deal I got. And like, man, it's a fucking piece of shit. Like,
Right?
so if you're not sure what you're looking at, go with a friend who isn't sure. Or like, I've helped people with this too. If you think you see something online, send pics to like your favorite shop or builder and ask them for advice. I'm big on that. And I've had lots of people contact me like, hey, I just got this Jeep that you guys built, this GMR Jeep. And I'm like, sick, because we don't build Jeeps.
Right.
Like, but yeah, anyway, so yeah, definitely, if you don't know what you're looking at, get a friend involved or get a shop involved. Agent's 100% right. There's awesome value there, but it's got to be the right purchase. It's easy to get hosed if it's not your area of expertise.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think there was one actually, was it about 6 months ago? There's one for sale that I think it had the TMR. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but we looked at it briefly because we
Okay.
thought, maybe we'd get it for Jeep Beef and wrap it up and throw it in the race series, right? But
Yep.
that's the thing. It's like, you really gotta be able to go and see it. And I think it was in like California or San Diego or something like that. But yeah, you really just gotta see it in order to do that. But yeah, total side note on that. So, okay, so then once we have it built, we're all sort of ready to go. Obviously, we're throwing it on a trailer, right? Typically, to get it to the trails.
Yeah, unless you live at a trailhead, for sure, it's going on a trailer and being trailered to the trail.
Okay, right on. So then, in that case, what about insurance? Like, do you need to insure it? And plates and all that fun stuff?
It'd depend on your province or state. In Ontario here, yeah, to be on the Crown Land Trail system, you've got to have a plate, so an ownership, and the vehicle's got to be insured. So you have to have liability insurance, all of which are attainable. And I know, talking to friends in different provinces and different states, it seems like that's kind of the common theme. Not to say everyone does insure them. There's people that go rogue and do their own thing, or maybe they just play on their own private property, and they're okay with that comfort level. But yeah, I know for my stuff that goes on the trails, I plate it as an off-road vehicle and I insure it as an off-road vehicle, just for liability and peace of mind. It's the right way to do it.
Sure, right on. I feel like the answer to this is a giant no.
No, so the green plate he's talking about is an off-road vehicle plate.
Okay, good. All right, interesting.
Yeah, I've got one of those for any of the tube cars I build. And like, if you want to build one of our kits and you want to plate it and insure it, I can kind of help walk you through that process. In Ontario here, I mean, I shouldn't speak, and I won't speak to other provinces and states because everyone's got their own local laws. But yeah, if you're in Ontario here and you wanted to build a tube buggy, it's not that complicated to go legit and get the thing green plated like Colin's referring to, and get the thing insured and do it right.
Okay, cool. So then, just out of curiosity, what the blue plate versus green plate? What's
blue plate's what's going to be on your Jeep, so that's a plate.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, like for a daily, right? Yeah, exactly. That's what he's talking about. Blue plate. I mean, call your insurance company. Hey, I've got a 2020 Jeep. I want to put insurance on it. Done. There's not a whole lot of work to that. The green plated, you've got to go and get a ownership. So they assign you a VIN number for your home built vehicle. And then you get liability insurance, and you need an appraisal as well. There's more components to it. So it's definitely more work. It's not a lot of work, but yeah, it's not as easy as go to the dealer, buy the Jeep. It's got blue plates on it. Call your insurance company, insured, done driving.
Yeah, right on. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. All right, cool. So that's interesting. Another really good question from Colin is, can you drive the green plate on the side of the road?
Again, that's going to be province and state
Of course.
dependent.
Yeah.
In Ontario here, some people think there's a lot of miscommunication. Some people think you can because off-road vehicles, and that's referring to like side-by-sides or ATVs. Yes, they can drive on the side of the road in some areas of the province. From everything I've seen, if someone's got contrary, that'd be awesome. But everything I've seen, no, you can't drive a buggy. They're too wide in terms of their track width, and they're too heavy. So they exceed basically the size of a side-by-side. So do people do it? For sure. Have I done it? Yep. Is it 100% proper? Probably not.
Got it. Okay, we're in. All right, cool. All right, good. All right, so honestly, I think this has been super helpful. I think a lot of people who may be interested and can't make up their mind whether they should go with the. I mean, personally, I've been looking for, and I think I probably will continue to look for a JK that I can build and take out. But for me, it's important. One, I want to be able to take my kids, and two, I want to be able to drive it there and back. Just because I have a JL that doesn't have the towing capability that is required, right? So I mean, and that's something I think people have to consider. Is like, okay, if you're going to go that way, do you have the ability to get it to the trail? The knowledge to do it. And if you tick those boxes, then this is like, I mean, I've seen them. They're sick. I tried to get the YouTube video you taking the buggy in the back behind TMR. It's like the best video I've ever seen. You guys have to try and Google it. We'll try and put it in the notes below. But it's awesome. It's like you get a good like 8 feet of air just behind TMR, just right. It was awesome.
Yeah, we just jumped a little dock at our neighbors and launched higher than their disposal bin. And yeah, I mean, if it's set up right, you can do that kind of shit, and it lands and it's plush. You don't hurt. I mean, if I tried to send any one of my Jeeps off of that, it'd be coming in for repair. So yeah,
yes,
it's
exactly, right. Yeah. Which that's what I mean. Like it's the way to go if you have the ability and the wherewithal and the the resources to do that. I personally think they're amazing. They're just awesome. So with that said, did we miss anything? Is there anything of importance that we should have covered that maybe we need to consider?
Yeah, I think it's important that you checked off. Yeah, if you build a Tube Buggy, you're going to need a truck and a trailer. So that's obviously an additional cost. One other thing we kind of touched on it would be the elements. If you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be out in all 4 seasons and potentially your whole family's coming, then yeah, I would lean Jeep because you can close that cabin in. Hopefully you've got heat, you've got AC, far more creature comforts. In a buggy, you're completely exposed. So yeah, there's definitely pros and cons there. So yeah, family, like I would lean Jeep. Okay. Heavily.
Yes.
If you want to have the family involved, I would definitely lean Jeep. And then the other common misconception is lots of people think like, oh, people with buggies, like, oh, you're rich. That buggy's like 75 grand or whatever. Well, fuck, man, what's your jail worth? I mean, same. I mean, let's be real. Not everyone owns the Jeep they're in. The bank owns most of the Jeeps you see out on the trail. The bank owns them, but nonetheless, I think there's a common misconception. Oh, you're a buggy guy. You've got more disposable income for this off-road. That's not the case. They just allocated it differently. Maybe they've got the exact same chips as you with your built Jeep. They just chose to play differently with those chips, and it doesn't make them any different from you. You're enjoying the same sport. It's just a different element and way to tackle it. So all aspects of it are fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good point, actually. Yep. Yeah. So again, it just really comes down to preference and where you want to be. And like you say, if I was to do it differently, I probably wouldn't, because I like daily driving my Jeep. Like it took me a while to get used to the JL. I'll tell you, I loved my JK, but I tell you, now that I love driving that thing around. Like it's awesome. And you can take it off road. It's comfortable. It's great. So, everyone has their own sort of,
yes. And most people would truthfully start in a Jeep or truck and then want to hit harder trails and then graduate towards Tube Buggy. Like I wouldn't get, boom, Carmen nailed it. Like definitely be fun to have both. That's the best. If you can do that, you're laughing. But yeah, most people would start in a Jeep and then graduate towards a buggy. I wouldn't tell someone new to the sport, hey, go buy Tube Buggy, because you haven't even dabbled in it. So you don't know what it's all about. And you might be wasting your money on something you don't actually enjoy.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, as I said, this needs to be a bit of a short one. We're wrapping up. We've got it being a Friday and Christmas and things are happening. So, Tim, man, as always, I learned a ton, especially when it comes to buggies. This is one area I really didn't know much about. You know, the green plate thing in particular.
Yep.
Yeah. So no, I really learned a lot. I hope everyone listening and everyone watching learned a lot as well. If you did and you're listening on our audio podcast, subscribe, please consider, or leave a comment if you have subscribed. Just let us know how we're doing so we can improve and do better. And same thing if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, ring the bell so you can be notified of any new and upcoming shows. And all the people on our Facebook group, thank you for being part of the group and for watching this. So from Tim and myself, thanks again for joining us. And we'll see you next time on Light Bars and Lockers. Later on.